when you think back to like maybe some of the toughest times for you, like from a mental health perspective, you want to talk about some of those moments and how you got through them?
Yeah. I mean, yeah, a lot of tough times, a lot of dark days. How do you get through those times? I mean, it's good to know if you've been through them enough times. You're like, by this time tomorrow, I'll feel great.
Yeah.
Let's go. Check. She ain't gotta tell me what to do with it. I already know.
So I've been booking this room out like every single time.
Yeah.
It's really cool.
I like this better than the room in the lobby, so you're not on display.
Mm-hmm.
You kind of like, maybe we get to know each other or something. I like the other interview you did with, it was another Ivey grad that went to Bain.
Yeah.
Paul's like, he's dialed, eh?
Yeah.
He's got like this like huge plan. He knows what he's doing on the next little while. Like, yeah, it's tough. I guess you see probably people tackle life very differently. Eh?
You know, the thing I find after interviewing with a bunch of people is that like a lot of people, well, I guess there's two types of people, right?
Yeah.
People who had absolutely no idea what they wanted to do when they were young.
Yeah.
And people who knew exactly what they wanted to do. But I find like even the people who knew exactly what they wanted to do, plans sort of change, right?
Oh, totally.
So it's like...
Totally. Your plans always change. I think you have to be pretty flexible. You learn, like, that's basically saying, I'm not going to learn anything.
Mm-hmm.
Well, not to that extent, but like, I think you have a much more flexible mindset when you kind of roll the punches and learn new things.
Mm-hmm. Are you ready?
Sure. Let's try it.
Let's do this.
Okay.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Atila TV. Our guest for today is the calm and collected Will Richman.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be on.
Great to have you on. So Will is currently the CEO at GrowthGenius, a B2B SaaS company to help companies find relevant leads.
Yeah. So in a nutshell, what we do.
Well, it's really coming more later on. It's just more the intro right now. And then before that, he was a backpacker through Asia and Europe. And if you think I'm joking, if you go on his LinkedIn, there's literally a line that says backpacker Asia and Europe. Yeah. And before that, he was one of the co-founders of BNY Labs, which was successfully acquired by General Assembly. And then before that, he worked in wealth management at BNY Mellon, so worked in finance. And before that, he graduated from the Ivey Business School, which is a school that I also go to as well, the alma mater. So, fellow Ivey guy, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
So the first question I always like to start off with is, Will, at 16,
Okay.
what were you like when you were 16 years old?
Yeah, I mean, I think I was this weird juxtaposition. I think I was, I love sports.
Mm-hmm.
I played basketball, football, and soccer for longer than I can remember. But at the same time, I was in like computer immersion. So I had the nerdy side of me, but I was also, as active as can be.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And so talk about it, like, what were sort of things running through your head? Like, around 16, there's sort of this idea, you're getting older now, I got to figure out what you want to do with your life.
I think I was like late to the game.
Really?
I think it only clicked for me. It was probably summer grade 11, and that was like the first really hard job I had. I've done a lot of labor work, but I worked at this construction site and saw how tough it can be going into grade 12, and I think that changed me for the rest of my life. To realize how lucky I had it until that point. But up until that point, I was pretty free and clear, and I hadn't really had it figured out or anything like that.
And then, so you said it changed you for the rest of your life. It changed you in what way?
Yeah, I mean, it was a little extreme, but I went to the point where I wrote on my doorway, 10 months of work equals a lifetime opportunity. I was basically dead set on making sure that I didn't end up, in some of the jobs that I'd worked that summer. Have you worked labor stuff, like construction stuff? You're not framing the house.
So my very first job ever was a janitor.
Okay.
And it's really weird. Like, I know my friend Lovedeep, if he's watching, so he's gonna remember this. In a weird way, I was actually kind of happy I had that job, because in my head I was thinking to myself, like, one day if I have a biography, the fact that my first job was a janitor sort of propels me on to, started from the bottom, kind of thing.
It can only get better from there.
Yeah.
I think that's like really humbling.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't have, enough of those experiences where you realize you're not any different than anyone else. It's hard to stay grounded.
Mm-hmm. So then you said it changed you. So like, you talk about from the perspective. So like, how did that change your habits? Like, what did you start doing differently after working that job?
Yeah, I mean, I got more meticulous and organized
mm-hmm.
and regimented about how I attacked problems.
Mm-hmm.
I was I knew what I had to get. It was like you got to get in the 90s to have your pick of universities in Canada. Now it's high 90s, right?
Yeah, and the funny thing is, like, you can't go past 100, and the grades just keep on going up. So
no, I
want to know how this all ends.
People are gonna come out with 107s, 103s. It's gonna be insane.
So grade 12, what schools are you looking at? What schools are you looking at? What programs are you looking at?
Yeah.
What careers?
I think I didn't really know what business was. I know that's dumb, but I knew what accounting was.
Mm-hmm.
But I only knew, up until that point, science and math. And I knew I was good at that.
Mm-hmm.
But I saw my parents, one was a real estate developer, one was kind of a general manager or pharmacist.
Yeah, I mean, your dad had a pharmacy, right?
Yeah, well, he managed a kind of branch or company called PharmaSave.
Yeah, PharmaSave, yeah, I remember.
Yeah, and so I saw that and they loved it.
Mm-hmm.
It was a lot of work, but I think I saw them have a good time, and I saw that some of these math skills or science skills translated over well.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, it was between Western, UBC, U of T, I believe,
yeah.
McGill, and McMaster, I think.
And you're from Vancouver, right?
Yeah.
So you ended up choosing Western Ivey program. Why did you choose Western?
I think it was a good balance. I like the idea that the business school was, well respected, and it was difficult to get into, and you learned, basically all aspects. You came out really well rounded, but at the same time, I got the impression that Western folks didn't take themselves too seriously. Like it was a good time.
The reason why I'm laughing is that I have friends who chose not to go into Ivey, and they chose not to go to partly for that very reason, where they think that people are stuck up, arrogant. So it's funny that you had the opposite impression.
Well, and maybe that's just being from Vancouver, so maybe I didn't fully appreciate. Like, I don't know what the stigma is. So if you come from the GTA, what's available to you in Ontario. In Vancouver, we didn't really have a great look. Mm-hmm. So it was mostly through hearsay, older brothers and sisters of friends. So, yeah, kind of actually just only visited, I think, maybe one time before that. Saw a couple videos and just kind of threw yourself into it. It was, it was a really risky decision, but I think it was probably one of the best decisions in my life.
That's amazing. So you get to Western, you enter Ivey now. Tell us more about Will, the undergrad. What were you like in university? Who were you hanging out with? What kind of clubs were you involved with? How were you spending your time?
Oh yeah, very, very involved. Just intramurals mostly, but then there was a couple programs where you wanted to do as much kind of community service as you could. Mm-hmm. So, not that I'm like a saint or did this all the time, but like it was interesting to help out at homeless shelters and food kitchens and stuff like that. And then, but it was mostly intramurals, and then a lot of clubs.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting. You mentioned that you were juxtaposition in high school because you were involved in a lot of sports, but at the same time you took computer classes. You also, I think, studied web development. You took a web development course sometime in 2012, I think.
No, I didn't really. I wasn't really exposed to it until. It's 2012, but that's well after university.
Okay, so when you said you were exposed to computers, I'm curious why didn't you ever consider like going to software engineering, computer science, something like that, something more STEM kind of fields?
I wish. If I could turn back the clock, I would have picked that up in a heartbeat.
Yeah.
And done the double major. I hear you did. Double major comp sci.
Software engineering.
That would have been me to a T.
Mm-hmm.
I just can't rewind time.
Yeah. Why didn't you though?
Didn't know.
You didn't know, right?
Yeah, I didn't know, and I didn't understand how accessible it was. I think I might not have appreciated the way that I have because I was exposed to it in the right way. I think a lot of people get to comp sci material and they're turned off because they see it as not solving problems that they're interested in. If you're not interested in the problems that you're trying to solve, you're not going to keep digging and learn further. So
that's interesting. So like basically you're saying, like, for example, some people who learn computer science, they see it, they just purely just to make video games. So you think, okay, if I don't want to be a game designer, then what's the point of learning computer science?
Right.
Stuff like that, right?
Right, and so I know this because my brother went through computer science at UVic. And so, I think he was exposed to a lot of good things and a lot of theory, and I think that the deep parts are really important, but you have to often get through what gets you excited. It's like learning the guitar. You're not going to just go through the chords in no particular order. Likely you're going to try and pick up a song. You're going to say, I want to play that song. I'm going to learn everything I need to know to get to that song. Because when you get to that song, then going through and getting good at the fundamentals is a lot easier.
So then you were working you're in Ivey, involved in a bunch of clubs. Did you know, because you worked at BNY Mellon, does the company still exist or has it become something else now?
It used to be I3 Advisors.
Okay.
And then Bank of New York Mellon bought them as their Canadian division.
Okay, so at what point, so did you do internships like in banking? Like, how do you know you want to go into banking, finance, all that kind of stuff?
I mean, Ivey does a good job of exposing
you to basically you can do anything you want as long as you're an investment banker or consultant.
That's exactly it. So it kind of seemed like those were the plausible routes out of Ivey. So I think it was just a very good marketing program in terms of getting you excited about those fields. But I still love the idea of finance. I like the idea that you can start to boil down your understanding of the future and economics and markets. It's basically psychology and math, and you can boil that down into close to discrete values of basically people. It's of organizations working towards a common goal, and there's thousands of factors that go into that. So it's this weird kind of blend of science and art. I think it's pretty interesting.
Interesting. So how did you get the job at BNY Mellon?
Yeah, I think it comes from, good network. I think more than anything.
So how do you develop a good network?
I think you connect with a lot of people on things that you're mutually interested in. And I think you just say yes to as much as you can.
So tell me more, because I like specifics, right? So you said two things. You said connect with as many people as possible and say yes. So how do you connect with people, and what do you mean by saying yes?
Well, whatever your interests are, I would any chance you have to explore those.
So I mean like tactics, right? So for example, for me, like when you say connect with any people, in my head I'm thinking, okay, well, so for example, if I wanted to go into finance, I probably wouldn't do this, but for example, I wanted to go into tech, so connect with as many people as possible. In my head I'm thinking, okay, Twitter, probably get active on Twitter. If I want to go to VC, for example, tweet at venture capitalists, follow them on Medium, maybe even their Instagram, shoot them a DM. So when you were doing connecting, what does that mean to you?
Well, and I guess it would depend on what level of sophistication. I think in university it was pretty oblivious, and I would literally just sign up for every intramural I could, and I played like 3 or 4 intramurals at a time. It was clubs and intramurals, and just by being interested in the thing, you kind of meet a whole bunch of people. Post-university, if you wanted to be more sophisticated or targeted about it, I think you would work backwards from the groups that you wanted to understand better. Like 111 is a great example. Like understanding what tech in Canada is about. I think this place has it, as good as any. Right? I know it's a massive place, but I think this is the mecca for a bunch of great Canadian technology companies. So how would I go about,
or how did you go about connect? Like, so you said, so basically the original question was, how do you get the job at BNY Mellon? You said my connection, saying yes. So like specifics, like what exactly? How did your connection help you get that job?
I mean, they made the intro. I reached out to a bunch of folks that I knew that worked in finance in Toronto, and I was still in university. But first, I set myself up to be marketable.
Mm-hmm.
So you basically have to work up to that spot, and so you take a job managing your own company or your own business or something, and then take a finance. Like a starter finance job, and then you go for the big thing.
Mm-hmm.
So you can't go right for banking, I don't think, unless you're a genius or Paul in this case. Maybe
shout out Paul, man.
He's got it right away.
Yeah.
But I think that's pretty much it. I think you kind of like a gardener. You should try and just give semi-frequently and just catch up with people.
Yeah.
But people you genuinely like I think there's a lot of fake networking.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
In Toronto, and I think what you got to do is figure out who do you genuinely like, and then just kind of connect with them on a regular basis.
You said making yourself marketable. What does that mean?
I mean, yeah, it's interesting. I mean, okay, let's pick tech. I mean, finance is great to talk about, but let's pick making yourself marketable in tech. I think.
Sorry, cut you off. It's interesting because I asked you in the context of finance, but you chose to answer about tech.
Yeah.
That's kind of interesting.
Well, I mean, that's who I find affinity towards these days. And that's what I'm excited about kind of exploring further and understanding deeply. Yeah. Because, I serendipitously fell into this as well.
But we're going to get to that.
This wasn't part of the grand plan to be at 111.
The grand plan, okay, yeah.
But you just kind of work as hard as you can and hope for the best. But, yeah, I mean...
Making yourself marketable in tech.
Yeah, so, I mean, what are the key points? I think more often than not, you just want to join a really good quality company. And you want to work with people that are a lot smarter than you. And you want to work on something that's a little bit bigger than you, and you want to, you want to play basketball with the best, and so, but how do you get there? You don't start on the Raptors.
Yeah.
I think you go to meetups and you understand. I think if you understand the landscape, incredibly well, it gives you this sense of confidence that you go into any conversation. And I can talk tech with the best of them. I don't feel like I'll miss much. Do you know what I mean? So I think a lot of it comes from deep understanding of the landscape. So I was obsessed with Y Combinator, 500 startups, Techstars,
Paul Graham.
Yeah, all this stuff, and that's I think what gets a lot of folks our age into this in the first place.
Yeah. I was gonna ask you a question, but I lost my train of thought. So that means break.
Cool.
The reason why I break is because the clips, if I record for too long, it'll
just cut.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, that's good. Those are great questions, man. I think you got this knack for this shit. It's fucking crazy. I feel like you found your calling. You're like a a Charlie Rose.
Dude, honestly, I was reading an article the other day. Actually, I'm recording this right now. But anyway, I was reading an article the other day, and it's basically talking about, it's kind of, things are obvious, but they just make you go I know this, but it just hits you differently. Yeah. It's talking about basically finding personality traits, careers that match personality traits, and I feel like this kind of thing matches my personality so well.
Yeah. Well, you ask good questions because you're I feel like I don't know, but I feel like you're genuinely interested.
Of course, man.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's the art of it, but knowing when to press on things. I think that takes a wisdom beyond your years. You're okay, no. That piece, let's break that down because I want these guys.
Yeah. Yeah, and the thing, honestly, the thing too, I'm really trying to do now is the whole idea of bringing value to my audience and to whoever's watching this. Because and see, that's and one thing I don't know if you noticed, I'm trying to get you to go deep on specifics.
Yeah.
Tactics.
So that they can leave with here's a game plan. I do this
exactly
to-do list.
Because the big thing for me too is I know when I listen to people talk or podcasts, you feel good about yourself, inspired, but it's okay, now what do I do?
Yeah.
So
kind of left hanging.
And both is important too. And one thing I like about your answer is it's like you don't just focus on like the literal question. You focus on like the real, like the why,
the big picture.
The big picture.
Yeah,
which is good.
It's where I live, man. I can't change anything. So hopefully that helps. But keep pushing me in the right direction.
So I remember, to kind of get back on track. So you said that you love finance because it combined art and science, in your words, whatever that means. So if it's so perfect, why did you leave? Actually, no, sorry.
Yeah.
How was your experience at BNY Mellon, and then why did you decide to pivot, as they call it?
Yeah, exactly. Nice, pleasant word for fail. Just make a big mistake. Yeah, I mean, I think it was the types of you become the people you surround yourself with.
Facts.
And I think there are a lot of good people in finance, but the average person you surround yourself with, I don't think is my person. It's a different culture. I think tech, in its purest sense, is about figuring things out. You want to understand things extremely deeply, and I get that finance is about that. But the average person is really there to make money. And you're not often creating. You're not creating something. You're trading papers based on market signals, and you're basically trying to obviously consume all the right information and make trades when it makes sense, but you're not actually like changing things. So I mean, why did I leave? My experience was I wanted to create things. I wanted to go and create technology, and so I found myself like basically not going to work once or twice. Yeah. Because I'd stayed up all night working on ideas, like programming or like whiteboarding or like, I went through probably a dozen different business ideas before we landed on Bitmaker, because you got to figure out, not only are you excited about the market, the problem, do you have the right team, and do you want to basically have a company baby and bring that thing into the world. So there's a lot of things you got to go through.
So how long did it take you to make that realization?
Which?
So how long did you work at BNY Mellon for?
Just about a year.
Oh, you were only there for a year?
Yeah, just maybe a little longer.
Yeah, because I feel like a common thing I'm seeing now, especially with all my friends who have either graduated, I think about 18 months to 2 years. Yeah. People start to realize, okay, this is not what I want anymore. Like I checked the box. Yeah. I want to kind of do something else. So like, and then did it take a lot? So because when you left BNY Mellon, which you went to Bitmaker, right? What was like? Was it scary? Because I feel like a lot of the time, to your social capital sort of built up as Will, the finance guy. Yeah. And I was gonna be Will, this tech guy, Will, the startup guy. Yeah. What was that jump like?
It's terrible. It's terrifying. It's like, it's just like jumping off the building. You're just jumping off the top, and you're hoping you can assemble this plane on the way down. Isn't that a Reid Hoffman quote? Yeah. And he stole it from something else, I'm sure.
I thought you go with the Elon Musk quote, which is like, it's like staring into the abyss of darkness and eating glass.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it feels like when you finally assemble the plane. Yeah. And you're like flying the thing. I mean, there are tough parts, but it's more fun than anything else, I think. What's your question on that? Where do you want to take this? Yeah.
I don't even know what my question is, but I do have another question. Yeah. So BNY Mellon, you decide to stay there for a year, pivot, start something new, and end up at Bitmaker Labs. Yeah. So tell us more about. I think because I know right now with GrowthGenius, you're starting with your friends from back in Ivey. Yeah. So let's start about why Bitmaker. Yeah. Let's start about why Bitmaker and like what was that experience like?
Yeah, I think so. We tried to build. And it was a terrible product, but it was kind of like Instagram, men's Instagram, but like with nice clothes and nice things. Just like everything you kind of, when you're kind of daydreaming and aspiring to like get, but you don't really care about. So it was like just pictures. Yeah. And you hover over these images and you could see the tags and you could go and there would be links and you could go buy those things.
Funny enough, there's actually a Toronto startup right now who's doing something. I don't know if you know Bonsai, Shop Bonsai.
Yeah, I talked to one of the founders.
I've listened to the founder talk before too.
A couple of months back.
Yeah. And so it's basically kind of your idea.
Yeah.
But yeah, go on.
Yeah, so that's back in like 2011. Like I don't even know if really Instagram existed.
I think it did, but not like, definitely not to this extent.
Maybe not big or anything. But yeah, I didn't know. And so I tried to build that thing. We called it Nifty Lifestyle.
Okay.
It's like not a great name, but I think actually the branding, I'll find you the cover photo. I think it was okay. And couldn't build it. And so I wanted to figure out how to build it, and I couldn't. I guess you couldn't. It's pretty hard to teach yourself everything you need to know in a short period of time. So I found this school in Chicago, and ended up going there for 3 months, and then came back to
learn what?
To learn web development.
Mm-hmm.
So building Rails apps, and wanted to start working on something.
Yeah.
But through that process, a lot of friends were asking me about it. Said, I'd love to learn that as well. I was like, here, go down this thing. And it was good. It was called Starter League, but it was missing a couple key things. So I think it was, and it probably changed after that, but it was missing the placement aspect, and it was missing the intensity. So just out of Ivey, right? It's like third year is one of the most intense experiences you can go through.
Mm-hmm.
So, but it's effective. And so I wanted to create an experience like that, or we. When I say I, with the founding team, and it was a bunch of Ivey guys,
mm-hmm.
and so we wanted to create an experience like that, mm-hmm. and to get people to the other side, because it's like kind of going through that abyss, like you're talking about. You've got to get people to the other side of the river.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we ended up placing about 300 people, graduating 300 people, and placing 80% of those
mm-hmm.
those folks at like Shopify, Chango, IBM. Yeah, a lot of big startups in Toronto.
Mm-hmm. So you said your team, which makes me want to pull up something to ask you about. Okay. Yeah, I got some pictures. Recipe for startup success: living with your roommates.
Yeah, that's crazy.
So tell us about, why did you decide to start a company with your friends?
Yeah,
like,
very, very dangerous, obviously. But I mean, if you, I think the biggest thing is you have to have the same values. I think you have to have the same values and then complementary skill sets. So like, yeah, we kind of look similar in some ways, but I think internally very different. Very different people. Like, and you can trust them. Startups are a game of sharks, snakes and ladders, and so you really have to be able to trust the people you're working with for the next 5 years. And if not friends, then close colleagues.
Mm-hmm. So what was it about, like, the person, or let's talk more about, like, what do you think your strengths are versus, this Ryan?
Yeah.
Anthony?
Brandon. And Duncan.
Is Duncan still around? Because I don't see him around the office.
Yeah.
Oh, he's still there.
Around.
Cool.
He's always helping someone in some room or something. Yeah.
That's awesome. So, like, what do you see you guys bring, like, what do you think each of you brings to the table?
Yeah, I think Ryan. So Ryan's head of sales, and he comes from a Salesforce background, so he's like well trained at kind of understanding how to navigate those conversations.
Mm-hmm. Very
outgoing, so probably appreciate this interview more than anybody, and he might see this, so that's great.
Shout out to Ryan.
Then you got Brandon on the far right there. Brandon. And so Brandon comes from corporate M&A at Bell, and so he's kind of the operations wizard, and he understands financial modeling better than any of us, and so he keeps the money in the bank, and then Duncan's great with people, with customers, kind of the team building side of things. Mm-hmm. And I just have a couple of product ideas.
So what are you good at, man? What do you bring to the table? And now is not the time for false modesty, because I know a lot of people, like, be honest, what do you think you bring to the table?
I think I can see the bigger picture quite easily. Like, I can see where things are going and markets are going, and yeah, it's you got to kind of you got to point the rowboat in the right direction, and as long as people have something that they're working towards, then I think it makes it a lot more fun.
So the next question I want to ask you once I get this thing set up. Getting acquired. So what was the process of getting the company acquired, and how did it feel?
Bittersweet. I mean, it's like kind of like a necessary evil. It's I don't think that's the goal at the beginning, but it's apparent that often is part of the process of the whole thing. So markets in tech move so quickly that if you're not ready, or if you don't understand the world shift beneath you, you can get caught. And even the best can't kind of see these things coming, because you can have some startup in the US raise $30 million and start just, beating a war path down your market. And sometimes you might have good technology, good market, good team, but a lot of funding can go a long way. So, I mean, that was kind of the case with General Assembly. In about the same amount of time, I think they'd raised like $35 or $75 million, something absurd, right? And what they were really good at, they had great classrooms, great instructors, but I think what they're really good at is picking up new markets. And so they perfected the playbook in which they picked up a new city. And so we kind of saw that as a good way to keep Bitmaker, as an ongoing entity. So it still lives today. I think the staff is like 30, 40 people. Graduating, I think it's like in the tens of thousands of community members and folks that have gone through the program now, and you get to kind of be a part of a larger community. But an interesting process, because it is your baby, right? So it's tough to give up.
So you sold your company, and you did what most millennials and most people who sell off companies do. You decided to go backpacking through Asia.
Yeah.
So tell us why you decided to go backpacking.
Very cliche.
Yeah.
I mean,
to go find yourself.
Find myself. Well,
you're right here.
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, I think part of the honest answer is like I hadn't done a lot of traveling to date, and then I think I was a little bit burnt out. I think when you work as close to as hard as you can for, let's say, the good part of 3 years, like you gotta take a break. I think that's something that I've become a lot more wise to, is making sure that every, say, 3 months that you get a week off and just disconnect, decompress, or else it just gets worse, and that burnout eats at you over months and years. And you can kind of tell with people, and when they're burnt out, it's like you don't see that light or that fire in their eyes. That's burnout. Yeah. That's on the fringe of burnout. So that person needs to take a break. Yeah. And so, yeah, even sometimes around the office all the time.
Wait, can you come to the camera?
I kind of encourage folks to take a break, right?
So first of all, you were Asia and Europe. Yep. What countries did you go to, and like how did that experience change you?
Yeah. So I bought a one-way ticket to Hanoi.
Hanoi. Don't tell me Vietnam.
Yeah. Yeah. Northern kind of side of Vietnam, and spent a month traveling Vietnam, and then a month traveling Cambodia, and a month in Thailand. Yeah. That's great. I'd go back in a heartbeat. But everything is trying to kill you. Like not literally trying to, but like in some way, shape, or form, you need to be on your guard all the time. The first taxi I took, I got ripped off. So I think it's an eye-opening experience, and it makes you again realize how good you have it here. Just need to be reminded of that every once in a while. But yeah, Asia was great, and then Europe for a good part of like 6 to 9 months.
So you were gone for did you come back at all?
Yeah, I was gone for close to a year.
But did you come back, or you were just gone for 12 months straight?
Yeah.
How did that feel? Like, what was that like?
Felt necessary at the time. I felt like it was really good to disconnect for a while, and I think it keeps you. Once you've like gone off the grid, you like your brain just kind of unhinges from you're basically going through hoops, one hoop after the next, after the next, after the next, and you're on this track and you don't even realize you're just jumping through these hoops that society has defined for you.
Yeah.
But then when you unhinge and you disconnect, I mean, for a good period of time, you stop, you slow down, and you say, well, I've got 40 to 70 years left, depending on how you play it.
Mm-hmm.
What do I want to do? I think that reset is really important. Let's say 5 to 10 years.
And then so you're gone for 12 months, because like a big thing one thing I'm really into right now is like digital nomads.
Yeah.
So I follow a lot of like bloggers, Twitter people that like they're sort of like digital nomads for like last 10 years of their life. 12 months might seem like a long time, but it's not as long as like 5 years. So why did you decide to come back to Canada and start a company again?
I think it's community. I think you want to be plugged in to people you can learn from and you resonate with, and that you see in a frequency that you build long-term relationships with. Like, I think this kind of whole drifter mentality where you just, it depends on who you are though.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think the digital nomad experience for the right person could be amazing.
Mm-hmm.
It could be life-changing, but I think for a lot of people, you realize how like freedom and fun, very important, but the belonging side, just as important.
And you know, another thing too I'm realizing too now is a lot of these digital nomads I follow, I start to notice that after like maybe 3, 5, 7 years, it differs for each person. After a while, they also want to like spend more time in one place. They start talking about getting a relationship. They all want to know how to settle down.
Yeah.
Because I feel like community and belonging is such a big part of being what it means to be a human.
Totally.
So I definitely see that aspect for you, what you're talking about.
Totally.
And then
have you done a bunch of traveling?
So my only real trip was like, so I took a year off school to work. So I was thinking about dropping out, to be honest with you.
But was that properly?
Yeah, so I was working on property. I was also working on Atila as well.
Okay.
And then yeah. So anyway, so while I was on a year off, I was actually finally able to travel because I wasn't in school for once, and I did I think 7 countries in 10 days.
Damn.
So Paris, Monaco, Nice, Barcelona, Madrid, Lisbon, and London.
Nice.
Yeah, it was amazing.
Nice.
It was amazing.
Which was your fave?
Barcelona.
Oh yeah.
Like
same here.
I want to go back so bad. Barcelona's amazing.
Maybe that's the next startup hub.
Yeah.
That's cool.
So you come back and you decide. So what's the process like when you get back? So I think your friends that you started Bitmaker with, what were they doing at the time? And how did you how did the idea for GrowthGenius come about?
For Bitmaker or for GrowthGenius?
We kind of close the Bitmaker chapter now and then talk about traveling to Asia. So now GrowthGenius.
Yeah, GrowthGenius. So I think, there's a bunch of origin stories. I can remember like a bunch of key moments that give me fuel through the hardest pieces. And one of them is like I was in Vietnam going throh Mui Ne, and I'm like, this is the best. This is like I would just want kite surfing and go real surfing. Like I'm paying $10 a day to stay in this place for as long as I want. There's a pool, food, whatever, right? But I realized like I'm like basically alone. I like happened to have a friend that came with me for most of that trip, but like I was like I'm alone, but like success is not. It's best served with friends, with company, and so if you do hit that next level of success again, you got to do it with friends. It's like you've broken out of jail, and you got to bring your friends with you. And I think I thought about what would be the best thing for my friends, and I couldn't think of anything better than, I know it sounds ridiculous, but lead gen. And I was like, because you've never had to worry about getting new customers again, like your life's set.
Mm-hmm.
Like you work with really good quality clients, and people are just kind of beating down the door to work with you. You're good.
Mm-hmm.
You're good till the end of time.
That's amazing. So then, I think you guys were out of the DMZ at first, right? So I think another thing too, like a lot of founders face issues with is fundraising.
Yeah.
And I think you're raising a fund right now too. I think you're doing a fundraising round.
Yeah.
So let's start with the seed round, like when you first started GrowthGenius, right?
Yeah.
So can you walk us through like the fundraising round and like getting employees and investors for the very early days of GrowthGenius?
Yeah. And I think the best way to think about the early days is and this is from Paul Graham, is getting ramen profitable as quickly as possible, so that you can basically do that thing indefinitely, and that's a huge milestone in a business. So my business partner and I actually worked on products for a good part of like 2 years before this thing worked, and we went through again multiple versions. We wanted to make friends successful, and we thought the best way to do that initially was through basically recommending the best software for work. We ended up kind of pivoting to this because the adoption equation was a little bit too tough, and the unit economics didn't work out as well as we thought. But so once you have a bit of traction, then you just got to keep growing, finding more customers just like that with that pain point and solving it for them, and get to the point where you can't sustain that business any longer on your own. So you're forced to hire people, and so we were kind of at that point. We knew what we were going to do for folks. We knew how to find clients, and we knew kind of how to grow the thing.
So in the very early days of GrowthGenius, was bootstrapped?
Yeah, bootstrapped.
Bootstrapped in the early days, and it was just like you and your co-founder?
Yep.
How many of you was at the beginning?
It was my co-founder and I, and then Brandon.
Brandon.
And then we actually picked up Daniel. We started working with Daniel next, and you gotta basically bootstrap or bootleg the whole process. So
do things that don't scale.
Yeah, exactly. Don't worry about building all this insane technology unless you're coding, See, I think
I made the opposite.
Prodigy.
I think maybe you guys probably focus on technology less, and I probably focused on it too much when I first started off.
Well, we did too. Yeah. We spent a year building a product that no one used.
Yeah.
And so you have to validate the most risky parts of the hypothesis as quickly as possible. Yeah. And so a group called Ramen Ventures, I think Robert McNamara or something like this, he was like high up at Shopify in their product management group, and he's got all these frameworks, and I couldn't agree more with a lot of the ideas he has there. So de-risk it as much as possible. That's like demand. You got to make sure that there's demand and people willing to pay for the thing that you're building. Once you do that, then I would find other team members and start to automate a lot of what you're doing. And then after that, then if you're growing quickly and you're doing all the right things, that's where you raise money. But only when you've built that initial team and you've got a steady flow of clients. There's a lot of investors in Canada are quite risk averse.
Yeah.
We're used to real estate and banks.
Yeah. So personally, I think that a lot of my friends want to start a company. I feel like sometimes they're thinking about investors too soon, and not spending enough time thinking about actually picking something people want.
Yeah.
But anyway, because people are gonna ask the question anyway, if I want to start a company today, how can I find investors? How can I find people willing to invest in my company?
That's a good question. There's definitely a couple places. I think accelerators are great for this.
So how did you guys do it?
Okay, well, we slowly built our network of folks. Anytime we were introduced to someone, we would take the meeting and then add them to our advisor list. And we built up this advisor list of like, let's call it 50 to 100 people that were kind of tracking our progress periodically. And we kept growing the company, and then they would get interested and they would reach out, and things would continue to pick up. But I would say DMZ is great. If you go through a program like the DMZ or 111, these are bar none the best places in Canada to find folks that are interested. There's like the York Angels group, Maple Leaf Angels in Canada. Crunchbase is great. AngelList is great. There's a platform called Signal FX. NFX Guild, and Signal is what it's called, and it's like all of the VCs in the U.S.
Wow. Come back and ask this question. What does GrowthGenius do?
Yeah, definitely. So we help, B2B companies, but like that could be a freelancer, that could be any kind of small business that sells to another business, get sales meetings with people that they actually want to talk with. And we do that by automating their cold outreach. So any of your cold email, any cold like LinkedIn, and we're going to add channels over the next couple months. And so you don't have to worry about folks that want to talk to you.
Yeah.
That's the idea.
That's pretty cool. So that's we quite a bit of your life. So now I have a bit more questions about how you do certain things, the tools, stuff like that. The first question is, if I'm a student right now coming out of university or even high school, I'm trying to figure, okay, do I want to work for a Big 5 consulting, Big 5 bank, Big 5 accounting firm, whatever, or work for a startup? Of course, the answer contextualized to like whoever the person asking, the personality, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But sort of like, how would you sort of think through, like, if you're an 18-year-old Will right now, or a 21-year-old Rich, graduating high school, graduating university, trying to figure, or honestly, even if you're like you're 22 years old and trying to figure out what you want to do next with your life, how do you know, okay, I should probably go work in a bank or a big company versus work for a startup or something more unconventional?
That's a good question. Well, I think you have to try both. I think at different periods of time you have to try both, because working at the big company gives me a lot of fuel to work at the startup.
That's so true.
Right? Yeah, because you're like, I tried that.
Yeah.
It's like I had that type of relationship. Now I've got this type of relationship. Yeah. And without that other type of relationship, I wouldn't appreciate this one. But I think in general, it's your ability to deal with risk and ambiguity. If you can deal with a ton of risk and you can operate with very little information and be okay with good enough and not like totally dialed, then startups are your thing.
And also to your point, I think that your ability to deal with risk, but I think people should also understand their, like, a lot of people underestimate, especially young people, I feel like, in my opinion, underestimate their ability to take risk, right? Because if you're 21 years old, you're 22 years old, you live with your parents, you're just out of school or whatever, like, you can afford to take a job for 1 year so that it's not going to look that great on the resume.
Yeah.
As long as it's something you actually enjoy doing, it's something I think about. The other thing I was thinking about was in terms of, so you said, try both. Okay, so you said try both, right? But I feel like, it's like iteration, right? I feel like, do I want to study accounting or do I want to study engineering? Okay, well, why don't you just do accounting? But the problem with that is, like, take on student loans to do that. You spend a year in university, really don't like it.
Yeah.
If only I wish there was like a way to like test out different career paths and like faster iteration cycles.
This is my next startup.
Oh wow!
You could, and feel free, audience here. You can steal this one free. I just want to see this thing exist. But basically, I would do like Vice style interviews with white collar folks that were like very desirable careers: management consulting, investment banking, lawyers, doctors, etc. Like the works. Do those types of interviews and watch what a day in the life at every single stage in someone's career is like at all sorts of firms. So you get a really good sample set of what that's like, and then serve it up. And have you heard of like Devour or something? Or like just like Vice, let's say. But you have to do a twist on it, and I would call it Jobtions.
Oh, oh my goodness, you told me this before.
I told you about Jobtions?
I actually remember where we were. We were at the corner of that. I remember you told me.
I don't have the business model, but I feel like what you're trying to do is what most people are doing is they're putting the cart before the horse. They're going and committing a huge block of their life to something they have no idea what comes at the other end. So here's 4 years of my life, and I want to be a doctor. Why? Because I know they make a lot of money. That's a terrible way to go about that.
Yeah.
You're going to live in that career for 40 years.
Yeah.
And all you know about that commitment is they make a lot of money. I'm not saying everyone makes their decisions like that, but I've seen enough to know that our decision-making process is a little off.
Yeah, and the fact that, like, what if I think I want to be a lawyer? Why can't I just, like, do law school for, like, a month and realize, okay, I don't like it, I want to do something else?
Right.
I would have to commit like 4 years and like all this, like write the LSATs and do all this work if I try to test something out.
The system is set up backwards.
Mm-hmm.
I totally agree. The experimentation should be put up front, whatever the riskiest parts of that hypothesis are. Right?
Mm-hmm.
It's the same thing as like building
startups.
Yeah, exactly.
It's actually funny. We should probably think. I'm waiting. Like this. I'd be curious to see if there's a book or a blog post about like treating your career or your life as a startup.
Yeah.
Where like you're the business model whereby it's like you have a skill, so you yourself are the product.
Totally.
Your employers, your customers, that's the market.
And I think Andy Grove. Do you know Andy Grove? Intel, yeah. High output management. Yeah. I think he talks about that. He's like, you are a product. Think of yourself as a product. And it's like, it's a weird kind of contrived way to look at yourself, but couldn't agree more in some aspects.
And like honestly, like this is such a tangent that we probably don't want to go down this rabbit hole, but I actually think of dating a lot this way too. Or if you think of yourself as like a startup, like what are you bringing to the market?
No, I mean, you're not wrong. Yeah. You're not wrong. Like, how are you adding value?
Exactly.
What's your retention like? You know. What
are the exit ups?
Well, can you actually keep your girlfriend?
Yeah.
You know, is she gonna put up with you for months or years?
That's actually a very good point. Yeah.
Like, yeah. Are you consistently bringing something new and interesting to the table? And if you're not, why would
retention? I like that.
Why would anyone stick with you?
I sense a blog post coming. Okay.
That's great.
So I guess now let's come down to the third part of the interview. So one of the things you talked a bit earlier on, and you mentioned this a lot, and I always say like you're the Zen CEO guy.
Sure.
Do you know Naval Ravikant?
Yeah.
You had like similar vibe to him, very chill, you're always talking to soft voice. I told you, talk closer to the mic so we can even hear you.
Yeah. No, I like his kind of general style and things. Mm-hmm. I think he just did a podcast on Joe Rogan.
So amazing.
Cool. I will listen to it as soon as I get home.
You should really watch it or listen to it. It's very good. So in terms of like mental health, what kind of like why is mental health important to you, and what are some things you do to take care of your mental health?
I'd say some days I don't have good mental health, but when I can, I've been told and I've been able to keep it up for a while. But meditation in the morning, mm-hmm. His first thing is try and set your mood to the right dimness. Right, you want to set yourself up to be excited about the day. Mm-hmm. And so take 10-30 minutes to kind of zero out and get in the right headspace. But I don't think meditation needs to be taken so literally. I think a lot of people have taken meditation and said, okay, it needs to be, I'm like zenned out and I'm not doing anything. I think meditation can be used as maybe a synonym for focus or like flow. Yeah, flow. So you could find that in biking and running.
That's what I was gonna say. I feel like
in
that's
any
my
activity.
Meditation.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be yoga, mm-hmm. or it doesn't have to be literal meditation, but whatever it is your thing to take you out of the headspace of usual work.
Mm-hmm. So one of the things I love about Tim Ferriss' podcast, he really likes to go into like the tools and tactics people how to do stuff, how people do stuff.
Yeah.
So when you meditate, do you do Headspace? Do you use any apps, or like what's your meditation workflow like?
Oh, Headspace is great. Headspace. I mean, you kind of just fire that thing up mm-hmm. and just listen.
So like what you do is like just
for 15.
Sit down somewhere for 15 minutes and just chill.
Just in bed, I haven't figured out how to set. Yeah, I haven't figured out how to set it as my alarm. But I would love that to be how I woke up. I want it to wake me up, but then put you right into meditation.
Dude, here's my thing, right? I feel like for me personally, when I get out of bed, I have to get out of bed right away. Because I feel like, dude, meditation after sleep is just basically sleeping.
No, I understand what you're saying, but it depends on where you are. Sometimes when you're going through a tough time, clearing out your head and starting with no mental anxiety, but like running through all the things you have to do that day. I mean, you can write them down, but you can also kind of just like let them go.
Mm-hmm. So so I guess if the answer, my question was going to be like, when you think back to like maybe some of the toughest times for you, like from a mental health perspective, you want to talk about some of those moments and how you got through them?
Yeah. I mean, a lot of tough times, a lot of dark days. How do you get through those times? I mean, it's good to know if you've been through them enough times. You're like, by this time tomorrow, I'll feel great.
Yeah.
This week is I'm gonna get the crap kicked out of me. I'm gonna get, sometimes it feels like you're getting hit in the head every hour, every day of a week, and you just know, okay, on Sunday, I'm gonna feel good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes you're right, sometimes you're wrong, but at least kind of putting yourself to that future state is super helpful. And I think talking about it, I think a lot of people struggle in silence. I think there's like a machismo about startups.
Especially guys, yeah.
You're just like, yeah, I've got this. I'm gonna just, destroy whatever comes my way.
Crushing it.
Yeah, exactly. Like, that kind of talk is just like, I don't know. I don't think it's the right way to look at these things. I think you actually build bonds when you trust people with information.
Yeah.
And
that's facts.
Yeah, you basically share the right amount of information. I probably lean these days on the tendency of oversharing, but
I'm very much the same way actually.
But what that does is it helps you build bonds with people.
Yeah.
And if you don't feel like, if you don't give information up, people are not going to trust you. Yeah. And you want to build that trust, because it makes the journey so much more fun.
And how do you find people, like, who are some people that you're, like, how do you find people, who are some people that you're willing to open up to when you're going through these times?
I mean, the Founders Forum at 111 is great. So that's like kind of a group of folks that have started companies here, and we just talk about our issues. And it's really helped. I mean, to understand that a lot of folks are just dealing with the same things.
Yeah.
I mean, we actually do something called Touchy Feely every Thursday at 1 or 1:30
at GrowthGenius.
At GrowthGenius, and it's not as effective anymore because we got to break into small groups, but we have 4 categories. I mean, it's like admission of guilt. We call it, like, I don't know if I'm allowed to swear on this thing, but like F-ups.
Yeah.
And then we have like grievances, things that you're frustrated with, things that you're thankful for, and then what are you looking forward to? And that kind of hits the whole basis, and it's turned into like this happy hour that's like, kind of a little cheesy, but I'd love to, when it was just 5 to 10 people, that's how you really get to know what people are thinking. Yeah. So break the group of 30 up into small groups and kind of have those.
It's funny too. And the thing you said about cheesy, it's always weird because I feel like a lot of times, like a lot of this, like, and I'm definitely in this category too as like an engineer. For me, like I'm very like right brain analytical kind of guy.
Yep.
And sometimes people say, all this like talking about the feelings and like what are ways we can all collaborate, and they say it's cheesy, but it's effective.
Yeah, if it's sincere, if it's not like if you're not paying lip service to raise your rank in a company. I think some of these organizations become political past, say, 30 to 50 people. Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, you're kind of trying to figure out exactly what you should say, and you have to. I think it comes top down. You have to admit to a lot of things that you're like a messy person. Yeah. That like,
so like on the topic of that, sorry to cut you off, because I know GrowthGenius, you guys are crushing it.
It's coming.
Yeah, and you guys you guys have seen a lot of growth in the last couple of months.
Totally.
And then so in terms like how are you making sure like the culture when you had was just like U4, U5, and now you're like 20, 30, 35. What are some things you're doing to maintain that culture and keep things tight?
Yeah, I mean, I think it comes from open communication, over communicating, clear lanes. So like you have clear reporting lanes, like
I report to you, Will.
Yeah, well you basically, it starts to get to this like a little bit messy as you grow, because sometimes you're reporting to multiple people and it's a little hard, and then that becomes political because you have who's the nicer guy. I'm just going to go to that person all the time. But you have stand-ups daily, weekly sprints. We do like we call them GG mixed sport. So we're going to go play like basketball or bike together or whatever. So you can like see people outside the context of work.
Yeah.
We have town halls monthly. Yeah, it's a bunch of ways.
What about one-on-ones? How often do you do one-on-ones?
Bi-weekly one-on-ones. Yeah, bi-weekly one-on-ones. You could do them initially weekly, And then if you get really on a comfortable interval, you can do monthly, but just enough to keep pace there.
Something else, because I was reading one of your interviews about you, and you're talking about exercise, and you're a pretty fit guy.
Yeah.
And dude, I love that. Whenever I compliment you, you always deflect.
Turn it into a bag of milk, man.
Dude, whenever I compliment you, you always deflect. It's so funny.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't mean to, but yeah.
Just take the compliment, man. It's a good thing.
We'll do.
Let me tell you. Okay. So something I'm really into nowadays is like exercise and like diet.
Yeah.
So like, what is like sort of your exercise routine like on a good week?
Can I turn this back around on you?
Okay.
Do you have it dialed? Do you have your exercise and diet dialed?
Like, I think I'm like, let's say over like the last portion of my life, I'm probably at the best place I've been ever. And like in high school, I was playing a lot of sports.
Yeah.
But like, I think it was just like youthful energy was just getting me through.
Yep.
But now I have a fairly good regiment, but I was want to make it better, right?
Nice.
So yeah, someone was trying to figure out like what are other people doing so I can see where I can improve.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it's about the right balance. Like, if you have a tough week, be okay to like not do as much as long as you can get back into the routines.
Mm-hmm.
Because not every I used to like try and work out 5 times a week, and I found you keep to such a strict schedule that you'll just break.
Mm-hmm.
And so now, especially in the summer, biking to and from work, that's about half an hour each way, and I try and bike it as fast as I can. That works up a sweat, and then basketball once a week, and then runs.
So you're not doing weights right now or anything like that?
Not anymore. I'll get back into it, but it's just like whatever. For me, I'm weird like that. It's whatever I'm interested in at the time, and that keeps it kind of light and interesting.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What about in terms of like diet? Are you any kind of like diet like?
Nothing crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, trying to eat well when I can, and so make sure it's like mixed grains and veggies, or fruit in the morning, and then when you can, mixed grains and veggies, and like, not red meats during the day.
Yeah. Beyond
that, like, just try to eat as well as you can, but I think a lot of people go overboard on this.
I agree with that. I was just asking because like I'm trying like I like to say 80% vegetarian because like for example like yesterday the Raptors were playing.
Yeah.
We lost to the Warriors game 5, but
it's a tough one to watch.
Yeah, so like I had like a bunch of wings and pizza, right? So like I say I'm 80% vegetarian because I try to go plant-based.
Yeah.
But I'm also like still up in the air on like how much does plant-based actually help? Because sometimes I think it's placebo too, where like I eat like all veggies or like I ate no meat this week, I feel great.
Yeah.
But I also notice too that typically when I eat a lot of like when I don't eat meat, I typically also go to the gym more. I get more sleep.
Yeah.
So it's like how can you isolate what the causality is?
Right. There's so many variables that it's hard to isolate these things. Yeah. I mean, I think with the veggies versus grains, even though you might not looks wise, you might be the same. I think there's long-term longevity in fruits and vegetables. I think they redo the Canadian food pyramid recently. It's all veggies.
No, you're right. And the other thing too is like I feel like there's always so many conflicting studies. Yeah. Like I was looking at this thing and they were saying that like they basically found papers that said that every single food group causes some kind of cancer. And he said, and it was like this thing where they said, I think was it red meat or wine?
Yeah.
Like wine, like maybe some percentage of wine is good for you, but then another paper said some percent of wine is bad for you, and it's always hard to pinpoint. But I think it's also like contextualized on what's best for you.
Yeah, totally. I think that's pretty important to think about. Like, what do you want to eat? What can you eat on a recurring basis? And find out what's right for you instead of just sticking to some sort of plan.
Yeah. 2 hours long.
Wow.
Yeah. Because she was going deep on like spirituality and like energy, and she was talking about the education system because she's a teacher as well, right?
Yeah.
And we're just asking her all these questions, and then she had something interesting about like she said that she does this thing called Reiki.
I've heard of that. Is that where in South America they something to do with your like spirits?
Yeah, something about like energy and like all those like And she's basically like, so I can read people's body language. I could basically had her read our language, like read our body language.
And how are you doing?
It was pretty good. She said that
lean into it or something.
Yeah, she said that I can tell you guys are strong, confident.
Oh, that's cool.
It was interesting, yeah. But I wanted her to go more deep because it's almost like, I don't know, maybe she was being nice. But it's like, no, like, wait, what am I really
doing?
Yeah, peel back the layers of the onion, you know?
Yeah. What did you get the sense of? Is there anything like lingering behind?
Or what she said?
Yeah, behind what she said, or like, did you learn anything about yourself that you maybe didn't want to?
It's very interesting because you know what it is too. I feel like maybe I'm interviewing a lot of people who are confirmation bias. So like almost everything, like me and you, we both read Paul Graham, we both follow Naval.
All the same stuff.
It's all the same stuff, right?
It's like a microcosm.
Yeah, so it's almost like everything you're saying is stuff that I agree with.
Right.
And honestly, too, the thing too I realized too is like, before I used to try to find people who I disagree with, but I think at this point when there's so much information, most of the people who I typically disagree with are people who I have a different perspective on.
Yeah.
So honestly, I'm not even trying to find people who I disagree with. I'm trying to find people who are going to surprise me.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Give you something new.
Something new to think about.
A different way of, right. Actually, and that's something probably most people don't do nearly enough. It's like forcefully make sure that you are getting the other side of the coin, or else you're just going to have this like dull, boring existence.
And it's interesting too because you brought up the topic of job options and the white collar jobs. Yeah. I was actually to cut you off and say that why only white collar?
No, it should be everything.
It should actually really be blue collar as well too.
Totally, but I would start with what's the most desirable.
Yeah.
Well. Yeah.
I know what you mean. I know what you mean because like also like early adopters are more likely to be people in that kind of field. No, it makes sense. Yeah. It's also because like so one thing a bunch of people told me. My friend is like, Tommy, man, like, how come you're only interviewing successful people, man?
Yeah.
Interview someone like me. Interview someone who's just normal. That's not successful.
Yeah, that's great. You should totally.
But the thing is, like, I didn't really take it as not successful. I just like maybe more so less talked about. So for example, like one of the people I want to get on is my friend Marco, who's he's in the trades, and I would definitely not consider Marco unsuccessful. I think he's actually very successful in what he does.
Yeah.
It's just like the career path that he went down. Most people don't talk about.
Right.
You know, like how often do you have a podcast where you interview like, a consultant and a banker and an entrepreneur and also interview like an electrician?
Yeah, and I think they probably have a much happier existence than
like
the first three that you
Like
mentioned.
my buddy right now, he's doing an electrician and he told me that like, so he's graduating this year. So he was in school for 4 or 5 years, but it was an apprenticeship.
Yeah.
So he was getting skills and he was getting paid at the same time.
Yeah.
And a very good job, very good benefits.
Totally, especially if you like to work with your hands.
Yeah.
Like, if you're kind of built differently, then like, I think that's potentially a better way to go. I think we're going to be kind of old and sedentary quickly.
Yeah. And there's also like this thing too, where like because less people want to go into the trades, the salaries are going up and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But I do have this theory that if the salaries goes up too high, immigration might offset. Anyway, it gets all political, but anyway.
No, it's interesting.
I think the trades is an underrated career path. I think more people should consider.
Yeah. Yeah, especially home building and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I think one day. Well, I would love to do something more physical after like something like this.
So after job options or before job options, you have so many goals. Eh?
I mean, job options would be cool though.
Yeah. Speaking of goals, question I like. So now the final third of the interview.
Yeah.
Question I like to call the 1, the 5, and the 25.
Yeah.
So you can probably guess where this is going.
Yeah.
Where do you see yourself? What would you like to be doing a year from now, 5 years from now, 25 years from now?
Yeah. So, I mean, a year from now, would love to be with the same team, much like stronger position where I'm excited to really see the product kind of come along.
Yeah.
Like, I think we can do a lot of good in that sense. Still here, maybe more partially kind of remote. We've been playing with a lot of remote as of late. But yeah, kind of generally doing the same thing and just in maybe keep working on getting to a better spot. 5 years from now, yeah, I mean, I would love to see this thing really take off. I think we want to wait until we do the right demo at 111, but I think this thing could be huge. But so does everyone in this building here, right? So, but 5 years from now, I'd love to have, I would love to have an office back in Vancouver as well as Toronto. Maybe a third office by then, but generally, I think the most important part is the problem you're solving, you think that it's genuinely helpful for people, and are you working with people you like, both on the team front and then on the customer front.
Mm-hmm. So did you talk about 25 already?
25, I have no idea.
So okay, so like yeah. So another thing I'm thinking about recently is like moonshot. So I don't know if you've heard this Bill Gates quote that people underestimate what they can do. People overestimate what they can do in a year, but underestimate what they can do in 10 years. Right?
Interesting.
So on that line of reasoning, imagine you had 25 years. So now time is no longer an issue on a long time scale with more capital, whatever.
Yeah.
What's a problem, like a big problem that you'd want to solve?
I mean, it's this one.
Jobs, right?
Well, it's not jobs. It's GrowthGenius, but not in the sense that it is now. Like the same technology can be used for building and maintaining relationships of any sort. And
so like Tinder.
Like Tinder. Yeah, I mean, you could take it out of a business context, and the idea is that it comes from Predictably Irrational.
Oh,
and, you know,
is it Ariely?
Yeah, Dan Ariely, right? And he talks about all of these weird kind of psychological conundrums, the things that don't really make sense.
Sorry to cut you off. Have you heard Charlie Munger's 25 Cognitive Biases of the Psychology of Human Misjudgment?
It's probably in the same vein. I haven't read the book.
Okay, I'll send you a link for that.
That'd be cool.
It's amazing.
Yeah, so in that same vein, like he basically found organ donation participation rates across Europe, and he looked at, I think it was 10 or 15 countries, and half had a participation rate of like 5 to 10%. The other half had a participation rate of 95%.
It's the opt-in thing, right?
That's exactly it. So what was the difference? It wasn't religion. It wasn't some sort of like cultural norm. He was able to separate all of those things out, and it was just the DMV form was like opt in versus opt out.
Yeah.
So, what if you make it really easy? You have to opt out of keeping your relationships alive. Like, so imagine by default, you are messaging the right people in your network at the right intervals, spreading just like good things, just like positivity. I know it's like cheesy as shit, but I think that's finally using technology for the way it should be.
It's interesting you mentioned that too, because another thing I've been thinking about a lot recently is the fact that, especially as me as an engineer, especially as society is moving towards a more empathetic, more compassionate sort of mental health perspective.
Totally.
One thing I'm always trying to do is always realize, and the one thing I keep on reminding myself, and I'm starting to really hit home for me, is like, the biggest problems in society are not technology problems. They're human problems. Like, how could we all agree to move in this direction?
Yeah.
You know, because like, you know, nuclear energy or tax or this or that, like, in theory, if we're all in this, you know, AI is another good one, jobs automation.
Yeah.
You know, someone like Andrew Yang.
Yeah.
If you've talked about before, it's like, whatever our different opinions on, like, more or less, if we're all on the same page, we can figure out the technology to solve these problems.
Yeah.
But like, how can we all get on the same page and all get our incentives to align?
Yeah, it's collaboration and resource allocation.
Yeah.
Totally. It's near impossible. How do you find some of the people you look up to? How do you find they do it well? Like, how do you get people bought into something for a long period of time? That's so true.
Like Elon, for who are some good examples? Like, so this is one thing I wonder about a lot. Someone like Elon or Jeff Bezos, right? So first of all, Elon is like, he's so good at motivating people to like I have friends who work at Tesla and they work long hours for very little pay. Yeah. But you know, they're excited to do it because of the culture.
Yeah.
So how do they do? I think one thing they're very good at telling narratives.
Yeah. So
everything Elon Musk does, and even Jeff Bezos to an extent, is creating the story behind Tesla and Amazon. Yeah. So to answer your question, how do they do? I think they tell very good stories about their own personal life. Yeah. And about their company, what their companies are trying to do.
Totally. I think, and that's probably the next evolution of most of these companies. Is like, you got a product, you've got a team, you've got a market you're going after, but how do you make it really easy to kind of scale up? And you're right, it is through a narrative or story.
It's like, it's really interesting because like, and I don't know, that's why I kind of get disheartened when people sort of bash tech for like, you know, they want to change the world, but like, what's wrong with saying that? Like, of course we want to make money, but we also want to change the world.
Yeah.
And I felt like there was a point where like I always say, you know, I want to. Like for me, honestly, I'm not big on the whole change the world thing. I'm more big on like change the world in my little 16 inches.
Yeah.
Like change like the little bit I can do.
Yeah.
But even then, right, when I say, you know, like, you know, I want to make the world, like, I want to make my backyard a better place. I want to make other people's backyard around me a better place.
Totally.
And sort of people, I feel like some people feel a bit jaded by that. They're like cynical.
Yeah.
But it's like that, you can have both. Like you can want to make money and also want to make an impact.
Well, if you have a clear path, and if you have good results, and you have it's kind of like ballistic missiles. Like, you know, you're kind of looking at, okay, this is my path to changing the world,
mm-hmm.
and then here's where I'm at now, and am I tracking on, you know, actually having really deep, large impact? Yeah, I think it's not, especially with how ubiquitous tech can be, it's not that crazy to think.
Mm-hmm. So, third last question, what are you currently obsessed with? So this can be anything.
Yeah.
And it can't be anything fluffy like, you know, meaningful relationships and connect the world. It's important, but it's not what we want.
Yeah.
Something light, fluffy, like a workout, restaurant, Instagram channel, YouTube, podcast, book. What are you currently obsessed with?
I mean, it's not too imaginative. I'll give you the first thing that comes to mind, but how I built this is like by Guy Raz.
Oh, the podcast.
The podcast. And he interviews, you know, I've gone through like 50 interviews, and it's just each person's story, and it's so different on how they got there. There are common threads for sure. You know, I saw this thing, I had this problem, I went after this market, it was really difficult, here's the narrative, but when you get into the details of how it worked and the low probability of them getting to that point, it's really impressive. Or not, it's just interesting. Yeah, it's because the chances, the line between success and failure is so thin. It's so thin, and I could see, you know, they missed one round of funding, or they missed like, you know, one big customer, or they missed one great hire. You know, any of those ingredients are missing, and the whole thing falls apart. One investor. It's just like you're like, what? Like you realize luck and timing almost have more to do with people's success than the hard work sometimes.
Interesting. Second last question. So if people found the stuff you're saying interesting, they want to find out more about you, they want to reach out to you, what's the best way to find out about Will and reach out to Will?
Just email me.
Email you?
will@growthgenius.com.
Mm-hmm.
I'm on Twitter.
What's your Twitter?
It's will_Richman is the handle.
Yeah.
But I mean, just email me if you got or link, send me a message on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Will-Richman on LinkedIn.
Okay, and I'll add links in the description for everyone else to reach out to you as well. On that note, you started writing a bit about entrepreneurship and stuff, which I thought was super awesome. Why did you stop?
I think my ideas are a little too out there for people. Like it's like I'm like obsessed with altruism and just kind of what it means to kind of give back, and why societies like, you know, pull together the way it has been. And I think they were too ephemeral for me. They weren't crisp enough, and I didn't feel like, you know, some of the ideas needed to be a little bit more concrete or give you a walk away, or people would just kind of say, wow, this guy, you know, he's out to lunch.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I need them proofread by peers, and then
I would love to read stuff like that, man.
Then put together a blog post.
Honestly, like if you have ideas, I would actually love to read stuff like that.
I got a shitload.
Yeah, honestly, send them over to me. I'm interested.
If you're into it, yeah.
But the thing too you're saying about, I think also that's the fact that you said that, you know, you need to make them more crisp too. I think is it's actually an example that you need to write more too, because I feel like a lot of times too, people have things that they feel make sense, but as you start writing, like, actually what I'm saying doesn't make any sense.
Totally.
So which is why I
rewrite it.
Yeah.
You could be version 1 of 10.
Yeah.
You could re-rate the same. I think that was something I took from Picasso. It's like in Europe, none of his art was ever done. He would redo it over and over and over again. So it could be paper mache, and then he could put like spikes on it, and then he could put metal wiring around it, and then he could put like glass around it, and he could put like just turf, like, just anything. And to see that everything was in a constant flux, I think was a good analogy for ideas.
That's awesome. So final question. It's 2 questions. You can pick the one you want. You can answer both. For someone watching this right now, for someone listening to this, what is one final thought or one piece of advice you want to leave them with? Or will at 16, will at 12, will at 21, will at 18? If you could write a letter to your younger self, what would you tell them?
Maybe they're almost one and the same. I think, the older I get, the more I realize that life is kind of like a rainforest. And the only way you're going to survive or thrive in that rainforest is to be different. And so you have to have some sort of adaptation or thing that you are, almost obsessively interested in, or something about you that, initially you might think, I want to cover this thing up, but I think you should embrace the things that are weird about you. And I think there's a sea of sameness, especially in Canada. Fortune favors the bold, right? So take risks where you are uniquely strong at, and embrace those things that are a little bit weird. So I try to fit in for way too long. I'm kind of weird now.
You're kind of weird now.
Yeah.
I love that.
Totally.
Famous last words.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for joining us. And so again, if you guys love this episode, you can catch it on YouTube, Instagram, Spotify, iTunes, Medium. Am I forgetting anything?
No, that's great. Just email me.
Email him. Catch you guys on the next episode. Don't forget to subscribe. Peace. Thank you, brother.
No problem. No problem.
Let's go. Check. She ain't gotta tell me what to do with it. I already know.